I didn't leave him during a fight. There was no screaming. No shattered glass. No dramatic goodbye. That would have been too easy for him. Instead, I smiled. I remember the exact moment. He was sitting across from me, scrolling through his phone like I didn't exist, nodding occasionally as if pretending to listen. I was talking about something small, something that used to matter to us. Or at least, it mattered to me. It always did. He muttered, not even looking up. That was the moment something inside me went quiet. Not broken. Not hurt. Just quiet. Because I finally understood something I had been avoiding for months. He had already left me. Just not physically. People think relationships end with a big moment. A betrayal. A fight. A mistake. But no one talks about the slow endings. The ones where you're still sitting next to each other, but you feel completely alone. Where conversations turn into one-sided monologues. Where love turns into tolerance. And then eventually, into indifference. That's where I was. And that's where he thought I would stay. His name was Armin. Confident. Charming. The kind of man people trusted instantly. The kind of man who knew exactly how to say the right thing, just not to me anymore. In the beginning, he used to look at me like I was the only person in the room. Now, I was background noise. The funny thing is, I didn't notice when it started. Or maybe I did. I just chose not to admit it. Because admitting it would mean accepting that everything I believed about us wasn't real anymore. It started small. Late replies. Cancelled plans. Short answers. And then came the subtle distance. He stopped asking about my day. Stopped noticing the little things. Stopped trying. But the worst part? He didn't even bother to hide it. Because he knew something I didn't want to accept. I wasn't going anywhere. Or at least, that's what he thought. I stayed longer than I should have. Not because I was weak. But because I was loyal. And sometimes, those two things look the same from the outside. But loyalty has a limit. And mine didn't break in a dramatic moment. It faded, quietly. Just like his effort did. That night, after he fell asleep, I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at him. Really looked at him. And for the first time in a long time, I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. No love. Just clarity. That's when I made the decision. Not out of pain. Not out of revenge. But out of understanding. I wasn't going to beg for attention. I wasn't going to fight for someone who had already checked out. And most importantly, I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of a dramatic ending. Because men like him, they expect noise. They expect tears. They expect chaos. So they can play the victim. So they can say, she overreacted. I wasn't going to give him that story. Instead, I gave him silence. The next morning, I woke up before him. Made breakfast like I always did. Smiled like nothing had changed. Kissed him, goodbye, like it was just another day. And then, I started disappearing. Not all at once. That would have been too obvious. Too easy. No. I did it slowly. Carefully. Intentionally. I stopped texting first. Stopped asking questions. Stopped reminding him of things he used to forget. At first, he didn't notice. Of course he didn't. Because he wasn't paying attention in the first place. But then, something shifted. "Why are you so quiet these days?" he asked one evening. I looked at him. Really looked at him. And for a split second, I almost laughed. Because the irony was almost poetic. "I'm just tired," I said softly. He nodded, accepted it, went back to his phone. And that's when I knew. He still didn't see me. Good. Because that gave me time. Time to plan. Time to detach. Time to become someone he wouldn't recognize anymore. I started focusing on myself. Not in the cliché way. Not in the post-breakup glow-up way. No. This was deeper. Quieter. More dangerous. I rebuilt my routine. My thoughts. My priorities. And slowly, I removed him from all of it. But here's the part he never expected. I didn't replace him. I replaced the version of me that needed him. And that changed everything. Weeks passed. And for the first time, he started noticing something was off. "You've changed," he said one night. There was something in his voice. Confusion. Maybe even discomfort. I smiled. People do that. He didn't like that answer. I could see it in his eyes. Because for the first time, he wasn't in control anymore. And that scared him. But he still didn't understand why. Not yet. What he didn't know was that I had already made my exit. He was just living in the delay. And delays can be very dangerous. Because they give you time to think. Time to question. Time to realize something is slipping away. And once that feeling starts, it doesn't stop. A few days later, he tried something new. Effort. "Let's go out tonight," he said suddenly. I paused. Looked at him. This used to be everything I wanted. But now, it felt late. "Maybe another time," I replied calmly. He frowned. "Another time?" I nodded. "I'm busy." That word hit him harder than I expected. Busy. Because I used to always be available. Always ready. Always there. Not anymore. And that's when the shift truly began. He started trying. Texting more. Calling. Asking questions. But the thing about delayed effort is, it feels different. It feels forced. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. I answered politely. Never cold. Never rude. Just distant. And distance? It drives people crazy. Especially those who are used to having easy access to you. One night, he grabbed my hand. Held it tighter than usual. "Are you okay?" he asked. I looked at our hands. Then at him. And for a moment, I saw it. Fear. Real, quiet fear. I smiled gently. I've never been better. That was the truth. And somehow, that scared him more than anything else. Because happiness without him? That wasn't part of his expectations. That wasn't part of his control. And that's when he started losing something. He didn't even realize he still wanted me. But by the time he understood that, I was already gone. Not physically. Not yet. But emotionally? Mentally? Completely. And the worst part? He was about to find out. In the quietest, most unforgettable way possible. He thought I was still there. Still his. Still waiting. But he had no idea. I had already made a decision that would turn his entire world upside down. And when he finally realizes what I've done, it won't be during a fight. It'll be in a moment so quiet. He'll wish I had screamed instead. He didn't notice the first thing I removed. That's the interesting part. Not because it wasn't important, but because I had always been the one holding everything together. It started with the small things. The invisible things. The things no one appreciates until they're gone. His schedule. His reminders. The way his life flowed smoothly without him ever questioning why. That was me. And one by one, I stopped. No reminders about meetings. No "did you eat" texts. No checking in. No fixing the little problems before they turned into big ones. At first, nothing happened. Of course it didn't. Because habits take time to collapse. But then, they did. He missed a meeting. Forgot an important call. Showed up late somewhere he couldn't afford to be late. "Why didn't you remind me?" he snapped one evening. I looked at him calmly. Since when was that my responsibility? Silence. Not the comfortable kind. The kind that exposes something. Because for the first time, he had no answer. And that's when I saw it again. That flicker. That discomfort. The realization that something had shifted. But he still didn't understand what. Good. Because I wasn't done yet. I wasn't trying to hurt him. Let's make that clear. I wasn't interested in revenge the way people imagine it. No drama. No chaos. No destruction. What I wanted was balance. I wanted him to feel exactly what I had been feeling for months. Not pain. Absence. And absence? It's far more powerful. Because pain can be blamed, fought, avoided. But absence? It lingers. It confuses. It slowly eats at you. Until you start questioning everything. That's where I wanted him. And slowly. Carefully. That's where he was going. A week later, something changed. He came home early. That never happened. I was sitting on the couch, reading. Not waiting. Not checking the time. Just existing. He stood there for a moment. Watching me. "You didn't call," he said. I looked up. "About what?" He hesitated. Like he was trying to figure it out himself. "I mean, you didn't ask where I was." I closed my book. Met his eyes. "I assumed you knew." That answer hit differently. I could see it. Because for the first time, I wasn't the one seeking reassurance. He was. And that flipped something inside him. Over the next few days, his behavior changed. Subtly. But noticeably. He started paying attention. Not in the way he used to. But in a way that felt almost desperate. "What are you doing? Who are you texting? Why are you smiling at your phone?" I answered normally. Calmly. Truthfully. But I didn't explain myself. That was new. Because I used to explain everything. Over-explain, even. Just to keep things smooth. Not anymore. And the less I explained, the more he started overthinking. It was almost predictable. Humans fill silence with assumptions. And his assumptions? They weren't kind. One night, he couldn't take it anymore. "Is there someone else?" he asked. There it was. I looked at him. Really looked at him. And for a moment, I saw exactly what I had once been. Insecure. Unsure. Searching for answers in someone who wasn't giving any. I almost felt bad. Almost. "No," I said softly. He exhaled. Relief flooding his face. But then I added. "There doesn't need to be." That sentence. It broke something. Not loudly. Not visibly. But deeply. Because what I was really saying was, "You're not enough anymore." Without saying it directly. And that stays with a person. That echoes. From that moment on, he changed completely. He tried harder. Dinner plans. Conversations. Attention. Everything I had once begged for was suddenly there. But here's the thing no one tells you. When you've emotionally detached, even the right actions feel wrong because they're coming too late. And late effort, it doesn't rebuild love. It exposes the fact that it could have been done all along. And that realization, it kills whatever is left. Still, I played my role. I didn't reject him. Didn't push him away. I just didn't move closer. And that distance? It started driving him insane. "Why does it feel like you're somewhere else?" he asked one night. I smiled faintly. "Maybe because I am." He didn't like that answer. Not one bit. Because it wasn't clear. It wasn't fixable. And that's what made it powerful. Days turned into weeks. And slowly, he started losing his confidence. Not in himself. In us. Because for the first time, he couldn't predict me. Couldn't control the situation. Couldn't assume I would stay. And that uncertainty? It changed him. He became more attentive. More present. More careful. But also more anxious. Because deep down, he felt it. That quiet shift. That invisible distance. That unspoken truth. I was leaving. And there was nothing he could do to stop it. But the real turning point came on a random evening. Nothing special. Nothing dramatic. He reached for my phone. Something he had never done before. Not out of trust, but out of fear. I watched him. Didn't stop him. That confused him even more. Because he expected resistance. Guilt. Something. But I gave him nothing. And when he unlocked it, there was nothing to find. No secrets. No messages. No evidence. Just emptiness. And somehow, that made it worse. Because now, he had no explanation. No reason. Just a feeling. And feelings without proof? They destroy people. He looked at me. Confused. Frustrated. Lost. "I don't understand what's happening," he said quietly. I stood up. Walked past him. Paused for a second. And then said, "You're just noticing it now." And walked away. That night, he didn't sleep. I could feel it. The way he turned. The way he sighed. The way he kept looking at me. As if trying to find the version of me he used to know. But she was gone. And he was finally starting to realize it. But realization? It comes in stages. And he had only reached the beginning. Because what I was about to do next wasn't just distance. It was final. He thinks he's losing me. He thinks this is just a phase. Something he can fix if he tries harder. But what he doesn't know is, I've already made a move he hasn't even noticed yet. A move that's going to hit him all at once. Not slowly. Not gently. But in a moment so sudden. He won't even recognize the life he thought he still had. The thing about leaving quietly is that no one prepares you for what comes after the decision. Because once you decide, everything changes. Not on the outside. Not immediately. But inside? Inside, it's like a switch flips. And suddenly, you're no longer trying to fix anything. You're preparing to walk away from it. That's where I was. And Armin? He was still trying to understand what phase we were in. Was this distance temporary? Was I upset? Was there something he could fix? He kept searching for answers. But I had already stopped asking questions. And that's the difference between someone who's confused and someone who's done. One is trying to understand. The other has already decided. I wasn't angry anymore. That phase had passed. I wasn't even disappointed. I was organized. That's the word no one uses when they talk about leaving. Organized. Because leaving quietly? It requires planning. Not emotional planning. Practical planning. And that's exactly what I started doing. I opened a new bank account. Not because I was hiding money, but because I was separating my life. One small step at a time. I moved a portion of my savings. Updated passwords. Changed little things that seemed insignificant, but weren't. Because each small action was a piece of independence. And independence? It changes the way you carry yourself. That's what he started noticing. Not the actions. The energy. You seem different, he said again one evening. I smiled lightly. I am. No explanation. No elaboration. Just truth. And truth without context? It unsettles people. Because they can't control it. He watched me more after that. Not in a protective way. In a searching way. Like he was trying to solve a puzzle. But missing half the pieces. And the more he looked, the less he understood. Which made him try harder. He started coming home earlier. Checking in more. Even cooking once. I noticed everything. But I didn't react. And that lack of reaction? It frustrated him more than rejection ever could. Because rejection gives you something to fight. But indifference? It gives you nothing. One night, he sat next to me. Closer than usual. Talk to me, he said quietly. I turned to him. I am. No, not like this, he shook his head. Not surface level. I mean, really talk to me. For a second. I considered it. Telling him everything. How I felt ignored. How I slowly disappeared in the relationship. How I stayed when I should have left. But then I realized something important. That conversation? It was too late. Not because he didn't deserve to hear it. But because I no longer needed to say it. Closure isn't always something you give to someone else. Sometimes, it's something you give yourself. I think we already did, I said softly. He looked confused. When, he asked. I held his gaze. Every time you didn't listen. Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. Because this time, he understood. Not fully. But enough. And that understanding? It shook him. Because now, this wasn't just a phase. This had a history. A pattern. And patterns? They're harder to fix. That night, he didn't argue. Didn't defend himself. He just sat there. Quiet. Thinking. And for the first time, I think he saw it. Not completely. But enough to feel it. That distance. That quiet ending. But what he still didn't realize was how far I had already gone. Because while he was trying to fix the present, I was already building my future. A future without him. A few days later, the opportunity came. Not planned. But perfect. A job offer. In another city. It wasn't something I had been actively chasing. But when it appeared, it felt like confirmation. Like the universe quietly saying, "You're ready." I read the email twice. Then a third time. And instead of hesitation, I felt calm. That same calm I felt the night I decided to leave. That's how I knew. This wasn't an escape. It was a step forward. I didn't tell him immediately. Not because I was hiding it, but because I wanted to see something first. I wanted to see if he would notice the final shift. If he would feel it. Because by now, the distance wasn't subtle anymore. It was real. Visible. But still, he held on to hope. Hope that this could be fixed. That I was still within reach. And that's the dangerous part about hope. It delays reality. A few nights later, he tried again. Let's take a trip, he said suddenly. Just us. Like before. Before. That word. It almost made me smile. Because before it doesn't exist anymore. It only feels like it does. I don't think that would change anything, I replied calmly. He frowned. How do you know if we don't try? I looked at him. Because I already tried. 4 months. Alone. But I didn't say that. Instead, I said. Because I'm not the same person anymore. That answer landed hard. Because now, he was starting to understand the truth he had been avoiding. This wasn't about effort anymore. It was about timing. And his had already passed. The next morning, I accepted the job. Signed everything. Confirmed my start date. And just like that, my exit became real. Not an idea. Not a feeling. A plan. A few days went by. I started packing small things. Not obvious ones. Books. Clothes I didn't wear often. Documents. Things he wouldn't notice immediately. And of course, he didn't. Because even now, he was still focused on fixing something that was already over. But then, the moment came. Unplanned. Unavoidable. He opened the closet. Paused. Did you move your stuff? He asked. I looked up. Some of it. He stepped closer. Looked again. There was a shift in his expression. Not confusion. Recognition. What do you mean, some of it? His voice dropped. And there it was. The moment. The realization finally catching up to him. I stood up. Walked toward him. Calm. Steady. I'm leaving, I said. No drama. No emotion. Just truth. He stared at me. Waiting. For more. But there wasn't more. Because everything had already been said. Just not all at once. When, he asked, barely above a whisper. I held his gaze. Soon. That word. It broke whatever was left of his certainty. Because soon means. It's already happening. And suddenly. Everything made sense to him. The distance. The silence. The change. It wasn't random. It was intentional. Planned. And most importantly, final. He ran a hand through his hair. Pacing slightly. Why didn't you tell me? He asked. I almost answered immediately. But then I paused. Because the real answer? Wasn't simple. I did, I said quietly. He stopped. Looked at me. When? I met his eyes. Just not in a way you were ready to hear. And that was the moment everything truly shifted. Because now, he wasn't trying to understand anymore. He was trying to hold on. And that's a completely different kind of desperation. But the truth? There was nothing left to hold. He finally knows I'm leaving. He finally sees what he's losing. But what he doesn't realize is, leaving isn't the hardest part. What happens after I'm gone is what's going to break him in ways he never expected. Because this story was never about me walking away. It was about what he becomes when he realizes he can't follow. The strange thing about leaving is that the hardest part isn't always the goodbye. Sometimes it's how normal everything feels right before it happens. The days leading up to it, they weren't dramatic. No final arguments. No emotional breakdowns. Just quiet. Almost peaceful. And that peace? It confused him. Because he was expecting chaos. Something he could react to. Something he could fight. But I didn't give him that. I just continued. Packing slowly. Moving carefully. Speaking normally. As if I wasn't about to disappear from his life. And that unsettled him more than anything else. Because when someone leaves loudly, you can tell yourself a story. She was emotional. She overreacted. It was temporary. But when someone leaves quietly, you don't get that comfort. You're left with one question. How long were they already gone? And that question? It stays. The night before I left, he barely spoke. Not because he didn't have anything to say, but because he didn't know where to start. Every sentence probably felt too small for something this big. He watched me pack. Watched me fold my clothes. Watched me move pieces of my life out of the space we once shared. "You're really doing this," he finally said. Not a question. A realization. I nodded. Yes. That was it. No explanation. No justification. Because I wasn't trying to convince him anymore. That phase was over. He walked closer. Stopped just a few steps away. "Is there anything I can do?" he asked. That question. It came too late. Not because it wasn't genuine, but because timing matters. And his timing had already passed. I looked at him. Really looked at him. And for the first time in a long time, I saw effort. Real effort. Not forced. Not delayed. Just real, but it didn't change anything. Because effort doesn't rebuild something that was already lost in silence. "I don't think so," I said softly. He nodded slowly. And in that moment, something in him gave up. Not loudly. Not visibly. But quietly. The same way I did. The next morning, I left. No dramatic goodbye. No long speech. Just a simple "take care." And then I walked out. I didn't look back. Not because I was strong, but because I knew if I looked back, I might remember the version of us that used to exist. And that version didn't exist anymore. The drive felt different. Not emotional. Not overwhelming. Just light. Like I had been carrying something for too long. And finally put it down. Meanwhile, back in that apartment, silence. Not the peaceful kind. The heavy kind. The kind that makes everything feel louder than it is. The ticking clock. The empty space. The absence. That's what he was left with. At first, he stayed still. As if moving would make it real. As if doing nothing could somehow pause the moment. But reality doesn't pause. It settles. Slowly. He walked into the bedroom. Opened the closet. Half empty. That's when it hit him, and not fully. But enough. Enough to feel it. That shift from a "she's leaving" to "she's gone." The first day. He didn't call. Maybe pride. Maybe denial. Maybe both. He told himself. She needs space. She'll come back. This is temporary. But the second day? Something changed. He texted. Did you reach safely? Simple. Neutral. Safe. I read it. Didn't reply immediately. Not to play games. But because I wasn't rushing anymore. Eventually, I responded. Yes. That was it. No extra words. No emotion. And somehow, that one-word reply, it did more damage than silence. Because now, he knew I wasn't ignoring him. I just wasn't engaging. And that difference? It's brutal. Days passed. And slowly, the reality started settling deeper. He called once. I didn't pick up. Not out of anger, but out of clarity. Because answering would blur something that I had finally made clear. That's when the shift happened. The real one. From control to loss. He started remembering things. Not the big moments. The small ones. The way I used to wait for him. The way I used to remind him of things. The way I used to care. Even when he didn't. And memory? It has a way of rewriting everything. Making you see what you ignored. Making you feel what you avoided. He tried to distract himself. Work. Friends. Noise. But silence? It always comes back. And when it does, it brings everything with it. One night, he sat alone. Phone in his hand. Scrolled through old messages. Read things he never paid attention to before. Did you eat? Let me know when you reach. I miss you. Simple messages. But now, they felt heavy. Because now he understood. That was love. And he had treated it like background noise. That realization? It doesn't hit all at once. It builds. Slowly. Until it becomes something you can't ignore. A week later, he couldn't take it anymore. He called again. This time, I answered. There was silence for a moment. Then, hey, he said. His voice was different. Quieter. Careful. Hey, I replied. Another pause. I've been thinking, he said. Of course you have. Silence forces thinking. I know I messed up, he continued. I know I didn't see things when I should have. I listened. Not interrupting. Not reacting. Just listening. Because this wasn't for me anymore. This was for him. He hesitated. I didn't think you would actually leave. There it was. The truth. Not that he didn't care. But that he didn't believe I would act. And that assumption? That's what cost him everything. I know, I said calmly. Silence. Is there any chance, he asked. That question. It carried everything. Hope. Fear. Regret. I closed my eyes for a second. Not to think. But to acknowledge the moment. Because this was it. The point where the past tries to pull you back. But I had already moved forward. I don't think so, I said softly. No anger. No coldness. Just truth. And truth? It doesn't need volume. He didn't respond immediately. Because sometimes, there's nothing left to say. That night, something in him broke. Not dramatically, but permanently. Because now, it was real. Not a phase. Not temporary. Final. And finality? It changes everything. But here's what he still didn't understand. This wasn't the end of his lesson. Not even close. Because what comes after loss is realization. And realization? It's much harder to live with. He finally accepts that I'm gone. He finally feels the weight of everything he ignored. But what he doesn't know is, this isn't where his story breaks. It's where it begins to haunt him. Because very soon, he's going to learn something about me. Something I never told him. Something that will make him question if he ever really knew me at all. People think the hardest part of losing someone is the moment they walk away. But it's not. The hardest part is what comes after. When everything gets quiet and you're left alone with your thoughts. Because thoughts, they don't stay neutral. They dig. They question. They replay. And eventually, they reveal things you spent too long ignoring. For Armin, that phase had just begun. At first, it was simple. Regret. The kind that feels manageable. I should have done better. I should have paid more attention. Surface-level realizations. But regret, it doesn't stay on the surface. It goes deeper. And when it does, it changes form. A few days after our last call, he started noticing something strange. Not about me. About himself. The silence wasn't just empty anymore. It was loud. Every corner of his apartment felt different. Not because things had changed, but because something was missing. Something he never thought about when it was there. Presence. Not just physical. Emotional. The kind that fills a space without making noise. That was me. And now, it was gone. He tried to move on. Tried to distract himself. But something kept pulling him back. Not memories. Questions. And one question in particular. When did she stop loving me? It bothered him. Because he couldn't find the moment. There was no clear breaking point. No single fight. No dramatic shift. Just a slow fade. And that made it worse. Because now he had to confront something uncomfortable. Maybe it wasn't one mistake. Maybe it was everything. One evening, he did something he hadn't done before. He opened my old drawer. Not to find something specific, but to feel something familiar. Most of it was empty. Of course it was. I had taken what mattered. But in the back, there was something small. A notebook. He frowned. Picked it up. He didn't remember it. Which made sense. Because he never paid attention to things like that. He opened it. And that's when everything changed. The first page was dated. Months ago. Before the distance. Before the silence. Before everything. And the words? Simple. Today I realized he didn't notice I was upset. He froze. Turned the page. Another entry. I tried to talk to him again. He said he was tired. Another, I don't think he understands how alone I feel next to him. His grip tightened. Page after page. Moments he didn't remember. Conversations he didn't take seriously. Feelings he never saw. All written. All real. All ignored. And then, he reached the last entry. The final one. The one that changed everything. I think this is the day I stopped waiting. That sentence. It didn't just hurt. It explained everything, because that was the moment. Not when I left. Not when I became distant. But when I stopped waiting for him to change. And suddenly, everything made sense. The silence. The calm. The way I left without breaking. I didn't leave because I was hurt. I left because I was done hoping. And that realization? It broke him. Not loudly, but completely. Because now, he couldn't blame timing. He couldn't blame misunderstanding. He couldn't even blame me. All he had left was the truth. He sat there for a long time, notebook in his hands, reading the same lines again and again, as if repetition could somehow change them. But truth doesn't change. It settles. And once it settles, it becomes something you can't escape. That night, he didn't call, didn't text, didn't try to fix anything. Because for the first time, he understood something clearly. This wasn't something he could fix. This wasn't a mistake he could undo. This was a version of himself he had to face. The version that ignored, that delayed, that assumed. And now, that version had consequences. Real ones. Meanwhile, in a different city, I was standing by a window, looking out at a life that felt new. Not perfect. Not complete. But mine. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something simple. Peace. Not because everything worked out, but because I chose myself. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Quietly, and sometimes. That's the strongest kind of decision. I didn't hate him. I didn't even resent him anymore. Because people don't always lose you in one moment. Sometimes, they lose you slowly, without realizing it. Until one day, there's nothing left to hold. And by the time they understand, you've already let go. He thought I left quietly. He thought I disappeared without a fight. But the truth is, I didn't leave to hurt him. I left after realizing something he'll spend years trying to understand. That the most painful goodbye is the one that happens slowly, right in front of you, while you're too distracted to notice you're losing everything.